You ever have one of those weeks where it feels like you're living in a sitcom you definitely didn't audition for? That's pretty much been my life lately, except instead of a laugh track, it's just HOA threats, legal fees, and the sound of my own mother muttering about headscarves at a graduation. But hey, let's rewind, because if I start in the middle, you'll think I lost my mind before we even get to the good part. See, I've always been the kind of person who follows the rules. Model neighbor check, immaculate lawn check. Never a late HOA payment or a single parking ticket. My mailbox probably glows from how many good resident awards I could have racked up, if that was a thing. I'm a paralegal, so living by the book isn't just my job, it's in my DNA. Still, none of that prepared me for the day a bored clipboard-wielding neighbor decided to make me public enemy number one over a property that wasn't even on their map. Let me back up. About 5 years ago, I inherited my granddad's cabin, a real hand-built hideaway on a patch of woods about 2 hours from my suburban spread. The place is primitive, I mean, really primitive. No electricity, no plumbing, just a wood stove, a pump, a composting toilet, one step above camping, really. The only folks who'd ever call it a second home are people who think glamping is roughing it. But to me, it's sacred ground, a spot where I can go off-grid, breathe, remember the old man, and, actually hear myself think. I go maybe twice a month, post the occasional snow-dusted photo online, and keep my little oasis anonymous. At least that was the plan. Who knew a few peaceful photos would spark an HOA meltdown? It started with a certified letter, never good news. Some new board member smile, sharp enough to cut glass, congratulated me on my second home and informed me I was breaking HOA rules against multiple properties. I tried to explain, it's a primitive shelter, not even close to a residence, and it's miles away. She just smirked and said, rules are rules, you know what I mean? That's when I knew I was in for a ride. Fast forward a week, and there's a violation notice in my mailbox so dramatic I expected a film crew to jump out of the bushes. It claimed I owed thousands in fines and needed to sell my illegal second home or else. The kicker, they threatened to put a lien on my actual home. I dug out the bylaws because, well, paralegal, remember? Turns out their precious Article 7 only covers property inside the HOA. My cabin 100 miles out in a different county, classified as a primitive recreational shelter, so far from a house it's not even funny. Armed with proof, I emailed the board everything deed county definitions, highlighted bylaws. I figured logic would win out, but nope, the board doubled down, claiming I was breaking the spirit of the rules. They started running up the daily fines, and that's when I realized I was dealing with people who'd rather make up their own laws than read the actual ones. And it didn't stop there. That board member, clipboard in hand, started parading around my yard, pointing out phantom violations, gossiping to anyone who'd listen that I was some kind of real estate tycoon. I watched her measuring tape out, trying to find proof that I was letting the lawn go wild, jokes on her. I used scissors on the edges. I'm that thorough. Still at $150 a day, I was looking at financial disaster. And for what? Because someone didn't get enough drama at home. So I did what I do best. Lawyered up. My attorney actually laughed when I showed him the case. He drafted a cease and desist that read like a legal uppercut, quoting state law HOA rules, even the board's own bylaws. But he also gave me the best advice I've ever heard. Sometimes you don't just defend, you go on offense. Cue the montage, me a mountain of HOA documents, 5 years worth of meeting minutes, financials, obscure rules, and for the real twist, public property records. Turns out the same folks chasing me over the spirit of the rules all owned second properties themselves. Lake House rental condo, a Florida timeshare, each board member guilty of the very thing they accuse me of. I nearly laughed out loud when I found the bylaw that let any resident add an agenda item to the annual meeting, 10 days notice, that's all. I filed for a full public review of the rule they tried to nail me with. That's when things got electric. For 3 weeks, the board tried to strong-arm me, upping the fines, demanding I back down. I didn't. The night of the meeting, the community center was packed. As soon as my agenda item came up, the board tried to sweep it under the rug. But this time, the neighbors were listening. I got up, laid out my case, showed the letters, the deeds, the actual rule. Then, for the grand finale, I flipped the script, presented proof of each board member's own extra property, all documented, all public record. The room exploded. Neighbors shouted, demanded to know where their dues were going, why board members thought they were above the rules. One motion later, all my fines were erased, the 3 board members were pushed to resign, and I got the apology letter I deserved. Even better, the new board rewrote the bylaws, fixed the loopholes, and actually asked me for advice moving forward. The cherry on top, the woman who started it all sold her house and moved word is she couldn't take the stink eye from the neighbors anymore. That should have been the end of it, right? Except a couple months later, I got a call from a lawyer. My showdown at the annual meeting had inspired other homeowners to start digging. Turns out those board members weren't just power hungry, they were pocketing fine money too. A class action suit went down, and we won a solid settlement. Not a fortune, but enough to buy some peace of mind and a new chainsaw for Granddad's cabin. You'd think the drama would stop there, but karma's got a sense of humor. That board member who moved ended up on another HOA board in a new state, tried the same tricks, but the neighbors there found my online story, shut her down before she could start. Feels good knowing my little fight made waves beyond my own street. Now, the new HOA board is, well, reasonable. They host open meetings, help people before handing out fines, and treat the bylaws like actual guidelines instead of a personal playbook. I've even started helping other homeowners stand up to bullies. Turns out knowing how to pull property records can be a superpower. One veteran in the next neighborhood over used my strategy to stop his board from hassling him about his flag. The president's own violations ended that investigation quick. Funny thing is, all this chaos changed me. I started taking more property cases at work, helping folks save their family land, navigate HOA nonsense, stand up for what matters. The best part, my grandfather's cabin is still standing, a little more famous now. I've even been interviewed for a documentary about family land in rural communities. Never thought fighting over a wood stove and a composting toilet would lead to a film festival, but life's got jokes. Sometimes I still sit on that porch, listening to the wind and thinking about everything that's happened. Granddad used to say sunshine is the best disinfectant. He was right, bring the truth out, let people see it, and suddenly the bullies scatter. The whole mess taught me the rules. Only work if we make them work for everyone, not just the folks with the loudest voices. Standing up to petty power isn't easy, but when you do, you're not just fighting for yourself, you're setting an example. And yeah, there are still headaches. Just last week, my mother visited and nearly started a new civil war at my son's graduation, but that's a story for another time. The point is, fighting for what's right, even if it's exhausting, makes the victory that much sweeter. I'm grateful for every step, even the ugly ones, because they led me here to a stronger community, a tighter family, and a legacy my granddad would be proud of. So tell me, have you ever tangled with an HOA or a family member who thought the rules didn't apply to them? Where do you draw the line between community and control? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your take on justice, power, and standing up when it counts. Because let's be real sometimes. The best stories are the ones that get people talking.